Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Hockey Report. It is Monday, December the 29th. I hope everyone is having a fine Monday afternoon. I hope everyone had a great holiday season. Zach, how was your holiday? How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. It was a great holiday, man. Just kind of hunkered down for Christmas here with the fiance. Didn't really get up to a whole much. Saw some family the other day, but yeah, it was pretty quiet Christmas here. It was pretty nice actually. Things good for you?
Yeah, everything was good. Santa decided to bring a bed and a dresser, but left it up to Dad to build it for the little one. So my Sunday was spent building beds and dressers and all that fun stuff. But very fun over here. I hope everyone watching had a great Christmas season. A little bit late though today, so we're not going to waste too much time. We're going to dive right into tonight's 11-game slate. A very busy Monday, a very busy week ahead here in the NHL and on the DFS Hockey Report, because the NHL lost 3 days last week. So they're like, hey, we got to jam in as many hockey games as physically possible this week. We got the Carolina Hurricanes playing 5 games this week, but 11 games today, 5 tomorrow, 10 on Wednesday, 8 on Thursday, and 4 on Friday. That is your slate of games for this week. So let's dive right in. They also try to, I think, want to get New Year's Eve busy. So that'll be a fun one as well. But let's get into it. Tonight's starting goalies. So this morning, it looked like it was going to be Petr Kochetkov who started. Actually, yesterday, I should say. He was in the starter's crease on Sunday's practice. And then today, middle of the day, he was added to IR. So Kochetkov cannot stay healthy. So we're projecting to see Brandon Bussey in net for the Hurricanes, but unconfirmed there. Igor Shesterkin goes for the New York Rangers. It's going to be Sergei Bobrovsky for the Florida Panthers. Logan Thompson gets the nod for the Washington Capitals. Levi Merrilainen will start for the Ottawa Senators. This game actually has not been, it's not reflected on the website right now, but has been moved to 7:30. The Columbus Blue Jackets had an absolute nightmare of a travel day. They tried to get to Ottawa last night, plane issues, then there was weather issues, then the plane had to come from Montreal to pick the team. I don't know. It was a nightmare, I guess. So that game is not going to start actually until 7:30 now. I don't know how DraftKings will handle that, if it'll change or not. I haven't seen anything there. I don't know about you, Zach, but Levi Merrilainen will start for the Ottawa Senators. Linus Ullmark is away from the team due to personal reasons, so we wish him all the best. Elvis Merzlikins projected to get the start in the second half of a back-to-back for Columbus. Connor Hellebuck starts for the Winnipeg Jets. They will host the Edmonton Oilers in an odd start time in Winnipeg. It'll be Calvin Pickard for the Oilers. Joel Hofer continues to get the bulk of the work for the Blues. He'll start tonight. It'll be Alex Lyon, most likely, for the Buffalo Sabres, who will get Rasmus Dahlin back tonight. Vitek Vanacek gets to start for the Utah Mammoth tonight and for the foreseeable future. Karel Vejmelka added to IR today. UC is projected to get the start for the Nashville Predators. It'll be Mackenzie Blackwood for the Colorado Avalanche, most likely at least. Anton Forsberg will start yet again for the Kings. He's been spectacular during the injury to Darcy Kemper. Darcy Kemper does look like he's going to be back in the near future. He was a full participant in yesterday's practice. Dustin Wolf gets to start for the Calgary Flames. It's going to be Jeremy Swayman for the Boston Bruins. Carter Hart goes for the Golden Knights. It's going to be Philip Gustafson for the Minnesota Wild. Projected to see Joey Daccord, second half of a back-to-back for the Kraken, front end of a back-to-back for the Vancouver Canucks. They will go with Kevin Lankinen. And then the late game, we've got Lukas Dostal getting the start for the Anaheim Ducks, likely going to be countered by Yaroslav Askarov for the Sharks. There you have it. Those are your starting goalies tonight. Zach, if you take game number 2, you get the Oilers. Is that the route you want to go?
Let's do it.
All right. So I've got the Carolina Hurricanes hosting the New York Rangers. They are large home favorites tonight, minus 175, 3.3 implied total, 2.5 implied total. For the New York Rangers is among the lowest. In fact, it's the second lowest total on the slate. Not difficult to see why. 31st ranked 5v5 offense for the Rangers. Power play has been pretty good. Modest penalty kill for the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes, pretty good offensively, at least on 5v5. Power play still kind of a struggle bus. The Rangers, for kind of all of their offensive inefficiencies, have been quite good defensively this season. So, doesn't look like maybe the best game environment here. I don't think Carolina 1 grades out the best in this game at number 12. Pretty modest numbers here for Carolina, or New York 1, grading out 19th, and the rest of this group pretty low. Obviously Jackson Blake still in the top power play unit. I think is kind of interesting at 4K. Logan Stankoven getting the bump up to the top line at 4,100. Pretty cheap there. Like this game, by and large, is pretty cheap. No real good matchups outside of Carolina 1. They're going to essentially go head to head most of the evening with the second line. We'll see about a quarter of their ice time up against the top line of the Rangers. But the second line has been the one that really struggles defensively for the New York Rangers. The rest of this team pretty good. So I think if I'm going to play this game, it's probably going to come through that top line of the Hurricanes, which makes the most sense. Sebastian Aho, quite clearly their best forward right now, 6,800. Pretty reasonable price tag on Svechnikov at 57, and then as I mentioned earlier, Stankoven at 4,100. I think I would prefer to see Jackson Blake up on that top line, get that full correlation on the top power play unit. That would be beneficial, but Stankoven's fine, but definitely quieter offensively than Blake. So I don't mind this Carolina 1 stack. I think they're in an okay spot. Again, the power plays for both sides, not in the best spots today. So for the most part, not a game that I'm targeting a whole heck of a lot outside of a little bit of Carolina 1. If Frederick Anderson ends up getting the start for the Hurricanes, I might have a little bit more interest in New York 1. Just Busty's been so fantastic. There's just no reason to jam the Rangers in if he gets the nod. But one name that does stick out for the New York Rangers tonight is Igor Shesterkin. He is projected to be the highest owned goalie on this slate. Obviously, not the most friendly matchup, but the Hurricanes love to shoot the puck. Obviously, missing Seth Jarvis hurts. They got some banged up blue liners as well. Unclear if Keandre Miller will play tonight. And at 7K, Shesterkin does make some sense. He has been pretty good. His last 4 starts, specifically 922 save percentage, 3-1 during that stretch. During the month of December, he has a 906 save percentage. So I do think that you could probably take a swing with Shesterkin and GPPs tonight. If you're playing cash, maybe not the safest play, but at 40 or at 7K, the volume that he's going to see, I don't think it's outlandish that the Rangers could win a low-scoring game tonight. So I think Shesterkin makes some sense as well. Carolina 1 for me. That's about it. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, I don't really got a lot of interest in this game as a whole here. I can certainly see some of the reason why the field's getting to Shesterkin here. I mean, that price tag is solid for a goaltender who is pretty good, all things considered. 2 games against the Hurricanes so far this season. He is 1-1 against them. 38 saves in one game, 31 saves in the other game, 2 goals allowed in both of those games. So I don't hate the idea of getting there a little bit with some Shesterkin tonight. I'll probably be on that number for sure. In terms of the forwards here, it's pretty much Carolina 1 or bust. Like, I totally agree with you in this spot. I think I could maybe get to a little bit of that second line around an Ehlers Blake mini stack. But the rest of this lineup for the Hurricanes, I don't know how much I'm going to get there. If there was a better matchup for that third line, maybe I'd throw it a little, Jordan Staal, Jordan Martinook mini stack there. In terms of the Rangers, it feels gross, right? I mean, this is a team that's just struggling to score. Very little shot volume over their last 10 games played here. Feels like a really brutal spot. I'll have no Rangers ownership in my 20 max here tonight.
Let's get to game number 2 then. We have the Florida Panthers hosting the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, Capitals coming in as home favorites here, -123 on the money line, 3.1 implied total for them, 2.8 for the Washington Capitals. Bit of an interesting game here. I personally don't know if I'm going to get a ton of ownership on this game. I think Florida 2 looks like a pretty solid play here tonight. When you look at the line stacks, they draw the best ranking in this game here, coming in 7th overall on the charts tonight. Washington 2 close behind at 9th overall, Florida 1 coming in at 31st, and Washington 1 all the way down there at 35th overall. As you can see, not a ton of ownership here in this game tonight. 5% for Florida 2 and pretty low ownership across the rest of the board here. Look in the matchups in this one. Florida 2 also has the worst matchup of any line in this game. They are in really tough here, spending 34% of their ice time going up against that top line for the Washington Capitals. The offensive numbers may not be there, but the defensive metrics surely are for these 3 guys when they are together. So I think, as much as I've got some interest in Florida 2, I'm probably not going to be getting much more than the field here at like 5% on them here. I think you can make an argument to maybe sprinkle in a mini stack of Lundell and Sam Reinhart. Reinhart continuing to be an engine for this Florida Panthers top 6, along with this second line here. For the Capitals, it's pretty tough sledding. The matchup is good for that top line of the Capitals. But the line stats are pretty brutal. It's the exact opposite for Washington too, where they've got solid line stats, but it's a pretty brutal matchup for them overall tonight. I think I could maybe get to a little bit of this second line for the Capitals. They're going to spend 49% of their ice time going up against that top line for the Florida Panthers. Solid underlying numbers, but this is a Panthers team that is just giving up a ton of goals as of late here. So I don't really have a ton of interest in this game here, to be honest. I'll probably throw a dart at Florida 2, maybe throw a little bit of a dart at Washington 2. I think the one other argument that you can kind of make for getting to some Panthers here tonight is the power play matchup. Third best power play matchup on the entire slate here tonight. So obviously you got that full correlation with that second line and Sam Reinhart as well. And then on the blue line, it's Seth Jones who kind of runs the point there. $4,400. I think he's a fine play here tonight. How are you feeling about this game? Any different than I?
No, not really. I don't think it's this, very high event hockey here. I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring affair. I would agree that I'll probably sprinkle in some Verhaeghe, Bennett, Marchand. That line's just been so good together. So I'll probably get to them a little bit, and then that'll probably be the extent of it for me. Historically, Protas, Strome, Wilson haven't spent a ton of time together. I would prefer to see Serdif down there, keeps the price tag down a little bit, and the underlying metrics are much stronger. I think that Washington 1 is kind of interesting. Serdif's kind of just been a really good play driver this year with no results. So, yeah, I just think this game doesn't stand out really to me. Outside of what you mentioned here with Florida 1, but I don't really care that much about Seth Jones on the blue line. So I'll probably play Florida 2 just for the fact that they're really good at 5v5, really good power play matchup tonight. But yeah, like Logan Thompson's obviously been good, maybe a little bit sketchier as of late. And this is a Capitals team that in their last 4 games have given up 5, 3, 7, and 3 goals against. So, and then prior to that, prior to the shutout of the Maple Leafs, who couldn't score it with anybody at that point, gave up back-to-back 5-goal games. So the Capitals have been pretty leaky defensively. As of late, it hasn't really been kind of their MO this season. So I do think Florida 2 could probably get there. Columbus will be in Ottawa, as we mentioned. This game's not going to start until 7:30. The Senators are massive favorites, -205 this evening, which is pretty interesting. It's a team that's played very well at 5v5. Special teams are basically kind of meh. The Blue Jackets continue to struggle defensively, but pretty good 5v5 offense. The Senators' penalty kill does feel like one that's pretty gettable. They grade out 12th best, but they have killed just 70% of the penalties. We saw this as a Maple Leafs power play that has been just absolutely horrific. Have a really good night against the Senators the other night. So I do think the Columbus Blue Jackets power play is in probably a better spot than maybe this suggests. And then with Zach Werenski still out, it's been Denton Matejchuk on that top unit, and Matejchuk grades out supremely well tonight at $3,400. Projected for over 28 minutes. He's playing a ton. He's on that top power play unit. I think Matejchuk is super interesting. Whether or not you want to get to a bunch of the Blue Jackets is kind of up to you. I do think that they are in a bit of a sneaky spot here, despite grading out pretty poorly. Mason Marchment's been a bit of a difference maker for them since being acquired at $3,800. And then we obviously know what Fantilli and Marchenko are capable of. And then Levi Marilainen is certainly not a goalie that scares me whatsoever. So, obviously Matejchuk looks like a great one-off. That's probably the route that I'll go more often than not. But I do think Columbus 1 is a very sneaky low-owned option type, projected for under 2% owned against Levi Marilainen, who has a 33% quality start percentage this year. He's just not been very good. So I do think Columbus 1 is a very sneaky GPP play tonight. On the Senator side of things, this is probably one of, if not the best game environment of the night. I think both teams are live to put up a bunch of goals, and Ottawa looks like they are in an outstanding spot. This top line, we've talked about them a lot. They grade out top 5 tonight, but their underlying metrics together have just been unbelievable since Brady Tkachuk returned. Really, really, really good offensive metrics. And then they draw just one of the best matchups overall tonight. They're going to see 55% of their ice time up against Columbus 2, which is a line that has been just absolutely crushed at 5v5 this year. 5.4 goals against per 60. So I think that Ottawa 1 is in an unbelievable spot tonight. They are seeing a significant amount of ownership, but I think it is for all of the right reasons. Unclear if Shane Pinto returns tonight. It looked yesterday like he was going to be back. They wouldn't commit to that being the case this afternoon. Or this morning rather. So we'll have to wait a little bit closer to game time to see if he is actually in and how the lines shake out. I imagine they'll go back to Amadio, Pinto, Giroux, to trio that has spent a ton of time together this year with really, really good underlying metrics. Despite not playing since early December, Pinto is still third on the team in goals. Him and Giroux have formed a nice partnership. I think that is a really interesting get different spot. A lot lower owned than Ottawa 1. We know how good they've been matchup wise. It's not as good, but it's still pretty good for Ottawa 3. So that line makes a lot of sense to me as well. If you want to play the Senators but not munch the chalk of Brady and Stützle, who are 18 and 16% rostered respectively. And then on the blue line, I mentioned Denton Matejčuk being a really good value, but Thomas Chabot on the Senator side of things grades out extremely well as well at $4,300. So yeah, game is at 7:30 and locks at 7. I don't imagine that DraftKings will change that, but I don't know the answer to that for sure. I'm assuming that's going to lock at 7. So you're probably not going to know if Pinto's in for sure. They might say at 5 o'clock. It is possible when they get to the rink, they'll commit to Pinto playing later today. Probably just had to be evaluated. So it is possible we find out before warmups even gets underway. If you don't, obviously, if you're in a massive contest, Zach, like you're probably not taking that swing. But in a smaller entry GPP, you could get Pinto at 0% or 0.5% owned tonight. I think he's a really interesting play.
Yeah, absolutely right. Certainly somebody that could be in a really interesting spot here. This seems like just a great spot overall for the Senators, though. This top line is definitely going to be one of the chalkiest, one of the most owned on the entire slate, but it's really easy to see why. I mean, going up against that second line of the Blue Jackets in the majority of their minutes tonight, I mean, that looks absolutely delicious, right? Make no mistake, Merzlikins has not been great this year. 877 save percentage, negative 5.3 goals saved above expected. What is kind of hilarious, though, 11 games played against the Sens in his career is just 3 wins, 2.59 goals against average, and a 922 save percentage. So he could be an interesting, really deep chalk buster option if you want to get really weird with the goaltender tonight at $7,300. I'm not advising that you play him or have him be your highest owned guy, but in a large field GPP, that could be interesting for sure. I mean, I think for me, like I'm probably going to have some ownership on this second line and some ownership on this third line here. As well tonight. This seems like a really, really nice spot for this third line. I mean, they've been solid this season, 3.8 goals for per hour of ice time. You'd like to see a little bit more shot volume from these guys, but, they're finding ways to get it done. They're going to spend 68% of their ice time going up against that top line for the Blue Jackets, the second worst defensive line for the Columbus side of things. So, yeah, lots of interest in Ottawa here tonight. I'm definitely going to be getting there in terms of my ownership. Solid enough power play spot here tonight for them as well. I don't hate the idea of kind of building around that either.
The second line's also drawing a pretty significant amount of ownership. Perron, Cousins, and Batherson, third highest projected own line on the slate. Tom points out they had Cousins, Batherson, and Brady together yesterday. Stützle had maintenance, which is really weird. I do think there's going to be some lineup shuffling here with Pinto back. You just have to, or potentially back. You just have to be prepared for it. And they did basically say they expect Pinto back yesterday and they wouldn't commit to it today. So I do think there are some question marks within this lineup. And then obviously with the start time being pushed back, you're not going to be able to necessarily pivot. So you're going to have to kind of read between the lines here. I don't really think the lines are going to change. I mean, it's possible, but this is a team that's had their lines be pretty sticky this year, especially since Tkachuk's been back. Like, this line's been together pretty much the entire time. Second line's been together a lot, particularly Cousins and Batherson, and the third line's been together. So I don't imagine there's going to be wholesale changes, especially when this is a team that's averaging 4.3 goals per game over their last 8. So it's possible. I don't disagree. It is weird how they practiced on Sunday, but with Stützle being maintenance, we'll see how things shake out in warmups a little too late. Zach, why don't you take it away here with the Winnipeg Jets hosting your Edmonton Oilers?
An absolute pleasure. The Oilers are coming in as road favorites here tonight, minus 110, and pretty much a pick'em game. 3.2 implied total for the Oilers, 3.1 for the Winnipeg Jets. Edmonton's offense really starting to fire on all cylinders here as of late. You can see they're flying up the team weighted team rankings here. Power play has been tremendous for the Edmonton Oilers as well, and it's going up against the Winnipeg Jets team that has been anemic offensively. Beyond this top line, they just cannot seem to get anything going whatsoever here on a regular basis. Taking a look at the line stacks here in this game tonight, Edmonton won, grading out as the second best line overall on the charts tonight. Super expensive at $21,400. But with Connor McDavid as red hot as he has been, he is helping carry guys like Zach Hyman and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who in their own right haven't been any slouches as of late. They've been playing really, really solid hockey for the Edmonton Oilers as well. Winnipeg 1 coming in close behind at 5th overall on the charts tonight. Edmonton 2 coming in at number 16th. And everything else is 67th or worse. So no reason to really play any of these depth pieces here for any of these teams besides Edmonton 1, Winnipeg 1, and Edmonton 2. Taking a look at the matchups here tonight in this game, pretty low pace score, second lowest pace score of the entire night here. That's not going to shy me away from getting to this game here, specifically this Edmonton Oilers side. Edmonton 1's 56% of their ice time is supposed to come up against Winnipeg 1. And Winnipeg 1, again, it's the same old thing as it's been all year. Solid offensive metrics, but boy, they just cannot play defense whatsoever here. With the way that Edmonton 1 is playing, I think it makes it a little bit difficult to even play Winnipeg 1 tonight. If things break out as the way that they are looking in the charts here, there's a very good chance that Winnipeg 1 is going to be hemmed into their own zone a lot here tonight. There's certainly paths for them to have success. I mean, through the power play, is certainly a route that, they can find a way to score. Their power play has cooled off from where it was earlier on in the season, but the Oilers penalty kill as a whole is something that's still really been a struggle for them this season. So I think for me, a lot of interest in Edmonton 1 here. Edmonton 2 looks like they're in a pretty solid spot, all things considered as well. Leon Draisaitl there on that top power play unit, Vasily Podkolzin and Matt Savoy back as his wingers here. Both of these guys have been kind of finding their way slowly but surely. Feel better about playing Podkolzin, a little bit more upside offensively, it feels like right now, than Savoy. But I'm okay sprinkling a little bit of Edmonton 2 here as well tonight. But for me, it's going to be a lot of Edmonton 1 for sure. I think I'll maybe sprinkle in a little bit of this Winnipeg Jets top line. It is Calvin Pickard getting the start tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. He has really not been good whatsoever this season. 861 save percentage, I think, is like the worst among pretty much every goaltender in the NHL this season. So I think for that reason, like, you can talk me into some Winnipeg Jets here. I'm not going to get much more than like 5% of this top line, but I think because of the Pickard start and the power play spot, I'm okay kind of getting there a little bit. Where are you kind of coming in on this game here tonight?
Yeah, before we get into this one, I just want to go back to the Senators for a second. So, if you want to read between the lines here and try to figure out what they might do before lock, the lineup yesterday: Kachuk, Cousins, Batherson. So, if you want to go that route, that could be, again, part of the reason why we're seeing a lot of ownership coming in on Cousins and Batherson, which makes sense if that ends up being a trio. If you're reading between the lines, I would imagine this is Stutzla's spot. So, Perron, Stutzla, Zetterlund. Again, unconfirmed. Possibly Amadio, Pinto, Giroux, which again is who we project to see together tonight. And then it's going to be McDermott on the fourth line, which then Ridley Gregg would likely move down to the fourth line. So again, we're not going to know until after lock. It's kind of a crazy situation with the travel for the Blue Jackets. So if you are building around the Senators tonight, just be prepared that it could be Kachuk, could be Kachuk, Stutzla, Zetterlund, could be Kachuk, Cousins, Batherson, could be Perron, lots of moving parts here. Back to the Oilers, lots of interest, right? The Winnipeg Jets, it's kind of hilarious. Like, this team just seems to find a new way to lose seemingly every game. Looked like they had it in hand the other night against the Minnesota Wild, end up blowing the lead late, losing in overtime. They've now lost 5 in a row in 8 of their last 9 games, 10 of their last 12. I mean, they are just on a slide. And the Oilers are the complete opposite, right? The Oilers are absolutely humming right now and really finding their way. Typically you look at Connor Hellebuck and be like, boy, this is somebody that I don't want to go head to head with this evening. And then you take a look at what he's done since returning to the lineup: 1, 2, and 3 with an 893 save percentage. It's just not been the typical sharp Connor Hellebuck. The underlying metrics defensively aren't great. Penalty kill has been solid, but the Oilers still draw the number 1 power play matchup tonight because they are converting at 34.3%. I mean, it's just bonkers stuff. Lots of interest in this top line for the Oilers. They grade out number 1. McDavid, we joked about it the other day. We're like, yeah, we'll probably see him up over 10K when we get back from the break. That is not the case. He's still under 10K. Nuge still too cheap. He's been playing great. Hyman way too cheap. He's been playing great. Like, this line is too cheap for what they've been doing. Don't mind getting to some Edmonton 2, although I just think that the offense is mostly going to come through Edmonton 1 in the power play. So a little bit of Draisaitl mixed in with Edmonton 1, I think, is the route that I'll go. And you mentioned it with Picard starting. I think that Winnipeg 1's in an okay spot. At 20,100, I just feel so much more confident in Edmonton 1. But if you want to go this route, still a decent chunk of ownership. And Winnipeg 1, it will always just always projects well because they play an absolute ton. They do project to be the highest scoring line on the entire slate tonight from a raw projection standpoint, best value line. Like, there is reason to get there for sure. They grade out in the top 5 for a reason. So I don't mind getting there, but I do still just feel a lot better about Winnipeg or Edmonton 1, excuse me. Any final thoughts before we move on to St. Louis and Buffalo?
No, let's move it along.
The Sabres, suddenly the hottest team in the NHL. They've won, 8 in a row? If I recall correctly. Pretty remarkable stuff. Go up against Joel Hofer, though, is like maybe one of the hottest goalies in the league right now. Despite being scorching hot, the underlying metrics for the Sabres, good offensively as they have been all year, not great defensively. And then the special teams kind of meh. I low-key like the Blues tonight. I bet them in the betting market. I think this is probably going to be a tighter checking, lower scoring game. I don't have a ton of interest in it from a DFS standpoint. Nobody grades out particularly great. St. Louis 1 is the best overall, drawing 3.6% ownership. I could see a reason to get there. The matchup is quite good. 70% of their ice time coming against Buffalo 1, who doesn't grade out very well defensively. So I think I might get to a little bit of St. Louis 1 here tonight, but not a lot. 5%, 10% maybe. I think it's an okay spot. The power play just continues to be absolutely atrocious. Both power plays in this game, not great. So I just think this game doesn't really jump off the page to me as one that I have an overwhelming amount of love for. I mean, yes, the Sabres are hot. The underlying metrics offensively with the current lines, I mentioned it the other day, the way the lines are constructed, not great. And I still feel that way. I don't think the lines are built in a DFS friendly way, which doesn't matter to the Sabres. Obviously, they've won 8 in a row. They could give a shit about us. But from a DFS standpoint, not great. I still think like Josh Stone makes some sense at 4,700. The price tag is really good there. The underlying metrics for Norris and Tuch, not great. The underlying metrics for the third line, not great. So I still think obviously the Sabres could certainly extend this to 9 in a row. I just don't think that anybody from this game is going to be optimal. It feels like a 3-2 hockey game. I've got some interest in the goalies, particularly Joel Hofer. I've been a Hofer stan basically all season. I will continue to do so. $7,800, no ownership at all. I think he's in a fine spot tonight. Any different opinions on this game?
Not really. I do think it's a pretty gross game overall here. I don't have a ton of interest, but I think there's a couple of spots that I'm okay kind of getting to a little bit. I think St. Louis 1 is an interesting spot here. I'm okay throwing 5% at them in a big GPP. Jake Neighbors, 5 games played against the Sabres in his career, 4 goals and 6 points. Robert Thomas, 2 goals and 14 points in 12 games played. Pavel Buchnevich, 6 goals and 20 points in 25 games played. So they found ways to get to the Buffalo Sabres in the past here. I think that's pretty much the only thing that I'm willing to play on the St. Louis side is just a little 5% throw at that top line. On Buffalo side of things, I think for me, it's pretty much like a Tage Thompson, Josh Stone mini or a Josh Norris, Alex Tuch mini or bust. I don't think I'm going to be full stacking. Ooh, that's brutal news for the Carolina Hurricanes. Brandon Busey time.
Yeah, Bussy, baby. It's all aboard the Bussy train, baby. I guess all aboard the bus.
Oh, there you go.
Sense. Boy, I have him in a lot of season long. I love that news, but very bad news for Pyotr Kochetkov. Just an unbelievable string of injuries for him. Sorry, back to St. Louis and Buffalo.
No, that's okay. That's huge news there for sure. But yeah, I think for me, like the only interest that I have in playing the Sabres, from their forward group at least, it just comes through the mini stacks. Tage and Doan, Norris and Tuch. I think those are both fine options. Those are pretty much where most of the offense has been coming from for the Sabres in the past here. Obviously, Rasmus Dahlin drawing back on the lineup here for the Sabres tonight. I still think some of these, depth pieces are okay here. I'm okay playing a bit of Matthias Samuelsson, a little bit of Michael Kesselring at $2,600. I think he's a fine value play on the blue line as well here. So I think there's some interesting spots, but yeah, I just don't really have a ton of interest here in this game as a whole.
Yeah, over the weekend we released projections, and Matthias Samuelsson was our number one value defenseman, and absolutely nuked and won me a shitload of money. So shout out to him. Less ice time with Darlene back, but still at $3,700, he's always capable of getting there. But yeah, it's a very low event game that I don't have a lot of interest in. Let's get to Utah and Nashville, which also feels similar.
Yeah, it sure does. This one feels a little bit on the gross side. Utah coming in as the favorites here, minus 139 on the money line. Feels a little bit high. 3.2 implied total for them, 2.7 for Nashville. Taking a look at the line stacks here in this game tonight, Utah 1 drawing out as the number 1 line to target in this game, number 8th overall on the charts. Nashville 1 coming in at 14th overall, Nashville 2 down at 38th, and the Utah depth pieces 43rd and below. I don't have a ton of interest in this game, but I think there's a couple of spots that are kind of okay to get to. I think one of them is clearly Utah 1. Evidently, these three guys have been just tremendous. JJ Peterka been really solid up on that top line ever since he's gotten put up there. Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz just continuing to find ways to kind of get the job done here for this Utah side of things. You know, I think the big thing for me is that Utah's really kind of been struggling as of late. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games played here. They're scoring just 2 goals for per hour at 5-on-5 versus 2.65 expected goals for, according to Natural Stat Trick. The power play has been absolutely anemic for them, and they're going up against a Nashville team that has, you know, quietly been really solid as of late. 6-4 in their last 10. You know, the defensive metrics have been solid for them, and the penalty kill has been chugging along really well too. You know, when you take a look at the matchups here in this one, it definitely favors this Utah side of things, especially within that top 6, slightly above average matchups for them. It does look pretty rough across the board for the Nashville Predators. But to be honest, with how good Nashville has been playing, I kind of want to get there with a little bit of ownership on Nashville here. I mean, they've just been red hot as of late. This entire top 6 pretty much finding ways to kind of get the job done. So I think with Karel Vejmelka out for the time being, you know, Vitek Vanacek, you know, looking like he's going to be the guy Utah's going to have to rely on. I don't mind the idea whatsoever of getting over the field here on Nashville. I think they're an interesting pivot spot on this slate tonight. They're drawing very little ownership, just 3.4% on that top line, under 1% ownership on that second line. And when you look at the line stats, I mean, Nashville 1 has been just red hot. Only scoring 2.2 goals for per hour of ice time. But boy, those expected goals for numbers and the underlying metrics have been absolutely tremendous, generating just an absolute boatload of high danger chances. No real power play advantage to speak of here in this game. But evidently there is that full correlation on Nashville 1 with Roman Josi as the power play quarterback as well. So fire me up on some of this Nashville side of things. You know, for Utah, like I can see why the public's kind of getting there a little bit too. Like I'll probably throw 5% at that top line, you know, maybe get down to the second and third lines, but it does feel a little bit bleaker for them here in this game tonight. Where do you kind of come in here on this Utah Nashville game?
Similar. Not a lot of interest really. I have very similar feelings. Like Vanacek looked pretty solid against the Avs the other night, lost 1-0, but still since the start of November, 870 save percentage. I think it's hard to kind of look at this Nashville top line and see these underlying metrics and completely ignore them. So I do not mind them as a deep tournament, you know, dart throw in terms of just trying to get a little bit different. The price tag is outrageously affordable for how good this line has been. Stamkos is completely rejuvenated. Basically everything that went wrong in the first month of the season, month and a half of the season, has gone away entirely. All the bad bounces, all the, you know, bad puck luck is just evaporated. He, you know, his last 15 games, he has 17 points. He has 11 goals. He's scoring at a 60 goal, 93 point pace during that stretch. Yes, he's not going to shoot 93 or 23% the entire year, but it just goes to show how good he's been. And this comes on the heels of him starting the season with 5 points in his first 22 games. So yeah, he's turned a corner in a big way and he's still under 5K. I mean, you got a guy who's scoring at a 60 goal pace for the last month and a half at under 5K. I guess month, but yeah, it's just really, really solid floor, 3.1 shots per game. Like I'm interested in this Nashville top line as they get different spots tonight with Vanacek going. Utah 1 feels okay. Again, similar to you, probably 5%, nothing more than that. I just don't think this game has a ton of, you know, high upside. I think both penalty kills are good. Obviously the Utah power play from an XG standpoint has been good all year. They literally just can't score though. So moving on to the Avs and the Kings. The Kings are the lowest implied total on the slate at 2.4. They finally broke through offensively in their last game, but that was against the really, really poor defensive Anaheim Ducks. The Avalanche quite clearly are not the Anaheim Ducks defensively. So makes sense. 3.6 implied total. The Avs are just a juggernaut. They're literally like minus 220 favorites against everybody in the league. Top line for the Avs. Grades on number 1. Shocker. They've been unbelievable. Landeskog moving up, still under 5K. Fantastic price tag. Still really like the second line. Second line's underlying metrics basically as good as the top line. They just play a little less and don't quite convert at the same clip because they don't have Nathan McKinnon. But I'll continue to tout them as a line that if you're going to go out there and give me similar underlying metrics at $14,400, like I'm in. They've been fantastic. I think they're always worthwhile. I think they have game slate breaking potential. I think the one knock is that with moving Landeskog up, they maybe have a little bit less upside just because they've got one fewer player on that top power play unit. Still not a great power play this year, but obviously you got a little bit more exposure to Nathan McKinnon never hurts. So that's the one knock with Landeskog moving up, but I still feel really strongly about this line at that price tag. Like I'll play them every night until their price goes up. I mean, $4,600 Nichushkin, great. $4,700 Nelson, great. $5,100 Lehkonen, great. All great price tags. But Colorado 1 draws the better of the matchups, but still not great. No great matchups in this game. Highest event game on the slate, though. Anton Forsberg has been solid. I just don't think anybody's capable of slowing down Colorado, particularly Colorado 1. So, yeah, I'll play him again. They're not really drawing much ownership tonight outside of McKinnon. So I'm fine to fire up Colorado 1, who even in a tough matchup is so good that they grade out number 1 overall. And even the second line, like I think that just goes to show how good they are. Matchup is awful, and they still grade out in the top 10. So lots to like here from the Colorado standpoint. I could care less about what the Kings just did against the Ducks. Everyone scores against Anaheim. This implied total is pathetic. And they haven't scored against anybody basically all season. So I don't expect that to start against the best team in the league tonight. So I will not play any LA. I'm assuming your feelings are pretty similar.
Yeah, absolutely. Forsberg may have had some good games here as of late, but boy, he has stunk against Colorado in his career. 7 games played, just 1 win, 4.84 goals against average, and an .858 save percentage. He's been brutal. I've got interest in Colorado. I'm going to just play them on every single slate, Colorado 1 and Colorado 2. I'll meet the field, 10% Colorado 1, 5% Colorado 2. Makes it pretty simple, honestly. If you just kind of do that every night, it went fairly well, right? I mean, this team is just an absolute juggernaut. So for me, no interest in the Kings tonight. Haven't had interest in playing them much this season. And this is just, again, obviously a very brutal spot for them tonight.
Yes, sir. Let's get to the Flames and the Bruins. The Bruins kind of were like a fun, upstart, surprising team at the start of the season. Things have gone a little bit south for them. They've now lost 5 straight games. During that stretch, they've scored 1, 4, 2, 2, and 1 goals. I think this is a little bit more like the Boston Bruins we expected to see at the start of the season, Zach. But before I let you break this one down, I just want to show you something that's a little bit fun. So they're changing up their lines tonight, and I just couldn't do it because there's just no real reason to ever do it. But here's what their lines were like at the morning skate. Third line, David Pastrnak. Is he the best third liner in NHL history?
I do not get that whatsoever.
I mean, he's quite clearly not on the third line, right? Like, I mean, whatever. It's funny to list it like that. Like, I couldn't do it. I think that's third line is still quite clearly their best line, possibly. But like, I was like, okay, I'll split the middle here, put him on the second line, and yeah, I mean, this is still David Pasternak's team, but I just thought it was hilarious to see David Pastrnak on the third line. So, anyways, let's get back to it. The Flames host the Bruins.
What a world we live in with these Boston Bruins, eh? Calgary coming in as the home favorites, minus 122 on the money line. 3.2 implied total for them, 3.0 for the Boston Bruins. Pretty ugly game across the board here that's still drawing a bit of ownership. Calgary 1 coming in as the 17th best line to target on the slate tonight. Number 1 here in this game tonight. Kadri Farabee, Sharon Govich, they're really cheap, $13,700. They're pretty easy to get to on a pretty regular basis. I don't hate the idea of sprinkling a little bit of ownership on the Calgary Flames tonight. But, when you take a look at the matchups in this game, it's pretty brutal across the board for the Calgary Flames. I mean, Calgary 1, below average matchup. Calgary 2, slightly above average. Calgary 3, terrible matchup. I don't know how much ownership I'm going to really get to with this Calgary Flames side of things tonight. Calgary 2 comes in 30th. Calgary 3 comes in 36th. Boston 2 or 3, depending on how you want to look at this, coming in as the best line to target for the Boston Bruins tonight. I'm kind of interested in playing a little bit of them. I mean, it's just so cheap to get to these three guys together, right? Like $13,300 to get some exposure to David Pastrnak and hope that, either of these other guys on his line can find a way to get an assist or have Pastrnak bounce a puck in off of them. I'm kind of interested. But this game does feel pretty gross. I think it's tough with Calgary, man, because they're priced so cheap and there are some good elements to their game. I mean, when you look at the line stats, like they're solid. They are a solid offensive team. Their issue is they just struggle to score on a consistent basis here. I don't really know if I have like one lean in this game specifically that I really like for playing the Calgary side of things, though I do think that Calgary 1 is kind of the line to target here if you are playing the Calgary Flames tonight. And I know that sounds extremely kind of vague to talk about, but like it is really tough to kind of like feel confident playing the Calgary Flames here. And Boston has been a team, playing a lot of lower scoring games here this season. This game kind of has that feel to me. How are you kind of looking at this one?
Very confused. I mean, this is a Flames team that, from an XG standpoint, it's been great all year. Not great, but good, and just underperforming. And then it's starting to come around. And two of their last 3 games, they've beaten the Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights. Like, no small task. And are they better now? Are they starting to get it going? Like, this is a winnable game for them. I part of me wants to have interest in the Flames, and I think I will get there a little bit. I mean, if you just take a look at the raw projections tonight from the forward standpoint in terms of the value, I mean, it's just littered with Flames. It's Coleman, it's Kadri, it's Backlund, like some of the best value on the entire slate. I mean, Sharon Govich is up there. It makes sense. The same thing goes for the Bruins side of things. I mean, Pasta still grades out well. Arvidsson still grades out well. Like, and then you look at where the Flames grade out. I mean, the 31st ranked 5v5 XG against and the 32nd power play or penalty kill. I mean, a part of me wants to get to the Bruins, but then these lines are just horrific. And I kind of agree with you. It's like, I kind of just want to play this past the line because everyone's going to just maybe stay away and say, like, he's on the third line or whatever you want to call it. I still probably their first line. Tom brings up a great point. The last time they did this was when past his first game back and everyone played 15, 16 minutes. And I think that's entirely possible tonight. But I do want to say one thing. Fraser Minton and Pastrnak have spent 51 minutes together this year. They have a 3.9 XG for, 46.9 scoring chances for. It's pretty damn good. 10 of those minutes have come with Morgan Geekie, which they won't have tonight, but still really good underlying metric. Hustadinov has played some time with Pasta this year. I agree with you that is a pretty interesting route to go. I'm not 100% sure these matchups will stand out. Like conventional wisdom suggests that they're going to match up the Backlund line against Pasta no matter what line he's on. But also you still want to try to shut down Morgan Geekie because he's just been unbelievable too. So I imagine the Pasta line probably is the one that has the 70% matchup score, which makes me feel a little bit lower on them. But if it's not the case and they see the Kadri line, I mean, pretty good matchup. So yeah, this game's weird. I think I am going to get to it a little bit just because I think there is the possibility that this is a slightly high scoring game. Like, I think that the Flames offense is starting to figure it out. The Bruins have enough talent to take advantage of a team that grades out awful defensively. So yeah, it doesn't feel the best, but from a value standpoint, I think it makes some sense.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the best way to put it here. The value does make sense here.
Let's get to game number whatever. I think 10, 11. 9. No, 9. We're on 9. Vegas, Minnesota. Vegas is very good. I mean, just outstanding. Jack Eichel's still out tonight. The Wild, pretty good 5v5 team, just absolutely awful defensively, or on the special teams, pardon me. I like Vegas, man. Like I continue to stack against Minnesota because they are not very good defensively and just get bailed out by their goaltending. Sometimes that fails and their opponent ends up being a good play. And I think that's entirely possible tonight. I mean, in their last 3 games, they're starting to be a little bit leakier. 5-3 and 3 goals against. It's a big time difference from what we saw earlier in the season. And I think this Vegas team has got enough talent even without Jack Eichel, and they're still priced like Jack Eichel is in the lineup. Mitch Marner, Mark Stone, and Ivan Barbashev grade out 15th best. The underlying metrics are very, very good. The underlying metrics for Vegas to continue to be awful. But since Eichel's been out, Tomas Hertl has been awesome. The shot volume has been just bonkers good for Hertl in the 5 games without Eichel. He has not gone a game since Eichel has been out without registering a point. 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points in those 5 games, averaging 3.8 shots on goal and 7.2 shot attempts per game. I mean, he has been awesome playing almost 20 minutes a night. So I still think that they make some sense because the power play matchup is very, very appealing. Second best power play up against the 30th ranked PK. It's the second best power play matchup of the night. So I want elements of this Vegas lineup tonight, whether it be the top line with Stone, Marner, and Hanifin, or the second line with Dorofeyev, Hertl, and Hanifin. I think both make sense. So I am interested in Vegas tonight for sure. Hanifin grades out as one of the best value options yet again. I still, even with Quinn Hughes in uniform, and I mean, Kaprizov's red hot, and Matt Boldy's still one of the most underappreciated players in the league. I find it difficult to get to Minnesota on a regular basis, and I have a difficult time getting there tonight. The matchups are far from friendly. The power play matchup is the worst on the slate. So I probably won't play a ton of Minnesota tonight. They're drawing marginal ownership. Can you maybe sway me and change my mind, or are you kind of staying away as well?
I don't really know where to go. Like, this is 2 teams that I kind of feel like I struggle to get right here. Whenever I play Vegas, they don't seem to do anything. Whenever I play Minnesota, they don't seem to do anything either. That being said, I do have some interest in this game. Like, I can get to some of this Vegas ownership here within this top 6 for sure. I might be willing to throw a little bit of a dart here at Minnesota. Kaprizov has had success against Vegas in his career, 11 goals and 16 points in 17 games played. He's obviously just continued to be rock solid this season. Eric Sinek, Matt Boldy, both guys that have been kind of close to point per game. Well, Boldy's been pretty much point per game, 3 goals and 10 points, 11 games played, 8 goals and 16 points and 25 for Eriksson going up against the Golden Knights. I don't know. I mean, I think I can throw a little bit of ownership there, but I just don't feel super confident in it. I don't really feel confident playing Minnesota all that often, to be totally honest. And, offensively, like, they're fine. They're getting it done. They're solid defensively. To me, though, this game kind of just has a lower scoring, grinding sort of a feel, 3-2, 3-1 kind of a game where I'm not really sold that anybody becomes optimal, but in the same breath with this ownership that is coming in on this Vegas top 6, don't really want to be left on the wayside if they do end up popping off here tonight. And truth be told, Pavel Dorofeyev, 6 goals, 9 points in 7 games going up against Vegas in his career. Stone and Marner, or going up against Minnesota rather, Stone and Marner, both over point per game players as well. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. It feels kind of gross to me, but I think I'm going to get there a little bit.
Let's get to game number 10. We've got the Seattle Kraken and the Vancouver Canucks in an absolute barn burner.
You suckered me here, right? Because you said, hey, if you take the second game of the night, you can take the Oilers. Also meant I ended up with this game, which is absolutely gross. We'll keep this one pretty short and sweet, I think. Vancouver coming in as the home favorites. It's a pretty much a pick 'em between these 2 teams. 2.9 implied total for both sides. Taking a look at the line stacks here in this game tonight, it is Vancouver 1 grading out as the best line to target, 20th overall. Vancouver 2 close behind at 21st. Seattle 1 24th. Seattle 2 coming in at 39th overall. I've got a little bit of interest in playing Seattle tonight. This top line has been kind of really solid here as of late, specifically Jordan Eberle. 6 goals and 8 points in his last 10 games played here. Matty Beniers has been putting up a couple of assists here, got a goal and 4 assists in his last 10 games played. I think for that reason, I'm comfortable throwing a bit of a dart here at Seattle 1 with a Beniers Eberle mini stack. They're not that they're not that expensive whatsoever. Just over $4,000 for each of these two guys here. Seattle 2, Eli Tolvanen, he has been red hot here as of late. He has been finding a way to get it done on a very regular basis. And funnily enough, Chandler Stevenson continuing to do the same thing. Eli Tolvanen, 3 goals and 9 points in his last 10 games played, 5 goals and 6 points for Chandler Stevenson. This is a Vancouver team that has really struggled as of late. Make no mistake about it. I've got some interest in playing a little bit of Seattle here. Take a look at the matchups here in this game tonight. It's really good for the top 9 of the Kraken. Tremendous matchups actually for this top 9. Seattle 2 grading out with the best, Seattle 1 the second best, Seattle 3 the third best. Vancouver side of things, it's that second line that has a really good matchup score, slightly above average for the other lines. Avert your eyes looking at the line stats here because it's pretty disgusting across the board for both sides. Putrid numbers for Seattle offensively, and it's really not a whole lot better for the Canucks, kind of sitting around league average across the board here. Nobody can really convince me to play the Vancouver Canucks on a regular basis. Can you do anything different for me tonight?
No shot. Eli Tolvanen was the second star in the NHL last week. So if you listen to the DFO Fantasy Show, pretty good tout there. We had him as a good streaming option last week, and I think he panned out. Yeah, I think Tolvanen makes some sense. Do I want to play Seattle? Probably more of a later slate play than anything. I don't know how much I'm get to him on main. Tolvanen one-offs I think are fine because his shot volume is good. I could care less about Stevenson as hot as he's been. I just can't get there. But Tolvanen averaging nearly 5 shot attempts per game in his last 10. He's been scorching hot. I don't mind it. I always talk about Eberle and Beniers being solid. And yeah, the matchup scores here are good, and Vancouver is not good. They've given up 4, 5, and 6 goals in their last 3 games. And oh yeah, that was against the Bruins, the Flyers, and the Sharks. So not exactly the who's who of offensive fire power there. And Lankinen's given up at least 3 goals in 4 consecutive games. He's given up, just an egregious number of goals this season. Not 878 save percentage since the start of November, 880 save percentage on the year. So, yeah, I don't feel super comfortable and confident in Seattle's offense, but I do think that this matchup makes some sense to get there. And whether it be through that top line, whether it be through Tolvanen, whatever, do whatever you want. The matchups are good across the board. The underlying metrics, you're not going to find anything that sticks out. And yeah, I just have a hard time trusting the Vancouver Canucks offense. So much so that they kind of seem to not be able to trust themselves. They are going to scratch Jake DeBrusk tonight, who has not been very good this year, and they're going to shuffle the lines around. There's just not a lot to like about this offense right now. But Seattle, second half of back-to-back, and they haven't played very well defensively. They grade out 28th. So I penalty kill sucks. I think there's an avenue for the Canucks to get there. Again, I might, use them as a plug your nose play on the later slates, but on main, I just think it's so difficult to talk yourself into them. But, Vancouver 1 grades out the best and Vancouver run right behind, or 2 right behind them. So I would play the Pettersson line. I think they've got the better underlying metrics. Rossi's done nothing in Vancouver. So if I had to play the Canucks, it would be the top line, which is a bit of a cop-out. Kiefer Sherwood, good shot volume as of late. I don't mind him as a one-off, but again, this game is like a real plug your nose. Feels like it could get there, but I'm more confident taking it on the late slate and the smaller slate than I am on an 11 gamer. Did I change your mind at all?
No, you did not.
I think you should get paid to play Seattle, Vancouver. No trust on either side. Agree. Demko going to start. Should. Second half of back-to-back for them. Let's get to the final game of the night. Very fun one between the Anaheim Ducks and the San Jose Sharks. 3.7 implied total for the Ducks. I get it. I bet on the Sharks, so I don't really get it that much. The Ducks have really not played that well as of late, and their power plays awful right now. It is so bad. Yes, they got a good power play matchup tonight, but boy, they are getting increasingly difficult to trust on a regular basis. But as it has been all year. Cutter, Gauthier, Mason, McTavish, Beckett, Seneca continue to grade out well. The underlying metrics, I mean, they haven't gone anywhere. That's the line to play. Leo Carlson's cooled off. You could probably get to that top line. It's going to look a little bit different tonight with Mikael Granlund up there. I think that I still feel a lot better about the upside of the second line. That'll be the route that I go. But where most of my interest comes is honestly on the San Jose Sharks side of things tonight with Eklund, Celebrini, and Chernyshov. Chernyshov's shot volume continues to be ridiculous. Celebrini continues to be one of the best players in the world. Really good underlying metrics. Really solid matchup. But quite honestly, like, you could probably get to this entire hockey game. I bet the over. I bet the Sharks money line. I think they're both fine plays tonight. Askarov has not, he's been a bit of a shell of what he was at the start of the season. Hasn't been nearly as good as of late. I'm just trying to find my numbers here. Okay. Askarov has given up at least 3 goals in all 8 games in December with an .870 save percentage. So not great. Dostal has an .855 save percentage in 6 games since returning from injury and an .873 save percentage in his last 10 games. So both of these goalies were great at the start of the year, not so much as of late. I think there's plenty of offensive upside to go around in this game. I think the top line for the Sharks is quite clearly their best play. You can make an argument whether it's the first or second line from the Anaheim Ducks. But honestly, I expected a little bit more ownership on this game as a whole. Seeing a decent, healthy chunk, but I expected it to be the chalkiest game of the night just because it does feel like one of the best environments. I mean, the matchup scores are great. The underlying metrics for the top 6 of the Ducks, the top line of the Sharks, great. The power play matchups really good on both sides. Again, the Ducks power play has been awful lately, but the matchup is still what the matchup is. So, yeah, I really like getting to a lot of this game tonight. I've got the Sharks top line in my DFO head-to-head. So, yeah, see how it goes. What are you feeling for the Sharks and Ducks tonight?
Yeah, a lot of interest in this game. Gonna have a lot of ownership here, man. I think this is a really fascinating spot. This game has the feeling of like just an absolute shootout. We're talking, 6-5 kind of a game here tonight. So I think for me, don't want to get left behind on the wayside here of what looks to be a really chalky game overall. So I'll be getting a lot of ownership here. Anaheim too looks like they're in a great spot tonight. Mason McTavish back producing in a really solid way here as of late for the Ducks. We've got this top line finding ways to kind of get it done, though I don't feel as good about them as I do that second line. San Jose 1, I mean, this looks like a great spot. I think you hit the nail on the head here. They're probably one of my favorite lines on the entire slate here tonight. So, yeah, I see myself getting a lot of ownership here on this game tonight, and I think we can kind of leave it at that.
First time or only time these two teams met this season was like early October. I think it was both teams' second game of the season, but it was 7-6 for the Ducks. So I think that is a good foreshadowing for tonight's game. Leo Carlson had 3 points. Mason McTavish had 3 points. Cutter had 2 goals. Kreider had 2 goals. Granlund had 2 assists. Seneca had 2 points. Terry had 2 points. Then you look on the Sharks side of things. Celebrini, 3 assists. Will Smith, not the game tonight, but 3 assists. Basically everybody on the team scored a goal. Lots of fireworks potential, and as Jim puts it here, all gas, no breaks matchup. Really fun game environment tonight. Smart men finally trusting the Sharks. Yeah, because they finally have good offensive metrics. Weird how that happens when you've got like a 1.9 XG or a, what is it right now, 3.2. Yeah, it's funny how that happens. Let's get to the defensemen and the goalies here. I don't just want to play Buffalo Sabres defensemen. Let's talk about everybody. I've talked about a lot of my favorites already. Really like Hanifin, really like Shabbat, really like Matejchuk. I also really like Rasmus Anderson again tonight. Sean Dursey grades out well yet again. Ian Moore still grading out really well. Sam Malinsky, always a dog. I like the Carolina defenseman, whether it's Nikishin, whether it's Walker. I'm fine getting there. As well. A lot of really nice options on the blue line tonight. I'm not going to dig too much deeper. Like I'm going to trust the projections on this one because there's a lot of quality at the tippy top. Anybody that I didn't mention that stands out to you?
Not really. I kind of agree with you. I mean, with how nails the defenseman projections were over the weekend here, I'm going to be running it back with some of these guys, grading out the top of these value charts for sure. Ian Moore, Sam Malinsky, 2 of my favorite kind of punt plays right now in the entire league. Malinsky was tremendous on Saturday, helped win me some money. Ian Moore just been blocking a boatload of shots here as of late, just eating every single puck that he possibly can get his hands on. So gotta love that. Sean Dursey at 3,900. I think he's another guy who's also really interesting on this slate.
Let's get to the goalies. Here we are. Mackenzie Blackwood grades out in the number one goalie to target tonight. Not a lot of surprise there. Lowest implied total again, 69% win percentage. Nice. Harder to trust Levi Marilainen, Lucas Dostal, and Vitek Vanacek. That is for sure. Even Joey Tagore to some degree, but I don't mind his price tag at $8K. Philip Gustafson grades out well. Don't love the matchup, but he can always get there at $7,400. Honestly, the goalies are pretty rough tonight. I like Blackwood a lot. Paying up for him feels good tonight because there's a little bit of uncertainty. I don't mind Wolf. I think it's a winnable game. I just don't trust their defense, but I think it should at least give him enough volume. He seemed to turn a corner a little bit lately. But Logan Thompson, I think at that price tag, I like the Caps in that game at $7,500. I think he makes some sense. I already talked about Joel Hofer being a really nice, cheap option tonight. Don't mind getting there. Don't really mind getting to UC Saros either. He always feels like a bit of a plug your nose play, but I don't love the Utah offense as late. I think the Nashville can certainly win that game the way that they're playing. And we talked about Igor Shesterkin being a nice cheap option tonight. So that's probably like the 5 or 6 that I'll focus on. Bussy, I think, it makes a lot of sense as well. Just not a lot of volume, but I think I would pay up for him tonight as well. How about you?
Yeah, I don't love the goaltenders on this slate. Mackenzie Blackwood does feel like a really solid play, given how expensive he is. I think Philip Gustafson, I can get behind a little bit of ownership on him, but I kind of like some of these mid 7K guys that, Logan Thompson, Jeremy Swayman, Joel Hofer, Alex Lyon range. I kind of like those plays here on this slate tonight. UC Saros, I don't mind him at $7,100. I think he's a fine play here. Igor Shesterkin, obviously at 7K is interesting. Then the ultimate chalk buster is Elvis Merzlikins.
Yeah. Yes. Is Elvis going to be in the building tonight or not? We shall see. Let's get to tonight's hat trick pick challenge. If you want to participate in tonight's hat trick pick challenge, all you got to do is drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. Make sure you wait till the video is over and drop it in the comment section. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. If a player scores a hat trick that nobody picked, we will raffle it off to anybody who submitted a pick. I believe we still got to give one away from a couple weeks ago. We've been a bit busy with the holidays and everything, so we will make sure that we get to that and go over all of our hat trick pick giveaways. But get your hat trick picks in tonight. Zach, who do you got?
Oh, I'm going way off the board tonight. Jordan Eberle.
Wow, that is not what I was expecting. I'm going to go with Macklin Celebrini. Really like the Sharks tonight. Give me Macklin for the Hattie. Let's get to tonight's daily face-off, our head-to-head lineup challenge. I won last Tuesday's head-to-head, but we both met the minimum cash line. I had like 144 points. You had 111. Very solid performance by both of us. My lineup went off, so I got 2 points, bringing me to 9 on the season. Zach got 1 point, bringing him to 7 on the season. So since I won our last head-to-head, I will go first. To be honest with you, I changed this mid-show. I shuffled things around a little bit, and here we are. I've got Tomas Hertl, Pavel Dorofeyev, and Noah Hanifin as a little stack there. As I mentioned, really like that power play matchup for Vegas tonight, and kind of a get different spot. Not a lot of ownership coming in on them. I went with the Blake Coleman, who's now on power play 1, and Rasmus Anderson mini stack. Just love the projection from Anderson. I wanted to get Matejchuk in, just couldn't find a great way. I did initially have a full Columbus 1 stack. Didn't feel great for the head-to-head, though, but it is a stack that I'm interested in GPPs, just maybe not in this head-to-head situation. So I ended up going with Anderson's projection versus Matejchuk's projection, and Coleman was the value that really helped kind of tie it all together. And then finally, I wrapped it up with a full San Jose 1 stack. I've got Celebrini, my hat-trick pick, Chernyshov, who's been just fantastic, and William Eklund, who was bumped up to that top line last game. Didn't leave me with a lot of financial security, so I think it's $7,300, and below that price point, I think Shesterkin is at least a safer option to at least see a lot of volume, even if they don't win that game. So that is my lineup for tonight's head-to-head. Who do you got, Zach?
Yeah, I played around with a couple different renditions of this lineup myself. At first, I had McDavid and Nugent Hopkins with Tim Stützle and Brady Tkachuk, but I couldn't figure out the value options to kind of get around them. So I pivoted here and went with a bit of an Edmonton 1, Ottawa 3 sort of stack. We know Giroux and Amadio play a ton of ice time together, so it feels pretty comfortable to say those two guys will be together on Ottawa 3 tonight. So went with those two guys. Thomas Chabot, a little correlation there as well. Obviously, McDavid and Hyman. Wanted to get some exposure to this Anaheim San Jose game. So we got the McTavish Cutter mini stack there. Sam Malinsky is a value play on the blue line, and I could pay all the way up for an $8,500 Mackenzie Blackwood tonight.
That's going to do it for this edition of the DFS Hockey Report. Shout out to our friends at RotoGrinders for providing projected ownership for today's show. If you want to get $20 off your first month of RotoGrinders Premium, all you got to do is click the link in the description of the video on YouTube to do so. You can also get 20% off Action Network Premium if you want to up your betting game. Join Action Network Premium, and then you can also join the DFO DFS Discord. Links are in the description of the video on YouTube. Sandine or Malinsky? I will go Malinsky. How about you?
Yeah, Malinsky for sure.
See you back here tomorrow for a, what did I say, 5-game slate? 5-game slate, I think. Until then, cheers. Best of luck tonight.